The moment the 5-year-old Tommy handed his crayon drawing to the intimidating Hell's Angel in the parking lot, he had no idea that he was about to change not just one life, but an entire motorcycle club forever. What began as an innocent gesture from an orphaned boy triggered such an unexpected, heartwarming reaction that it restores your faith in humanity and proves that family isn't always about blood. But what do you think happened when 20 leather-clad bikers showed up at the orphanage the very next day? The summer heat shimmers off the asphalt like liquid glass as the rumble of 20 motorcycles cuts through the lazy afternoon silence of the Riverside shopping district. Their polished steel exhaust pipes gleam like mirrors in the afternoon sun, making the concrete seem to pulse with life. Tommy Martinez crouches behind the thick concrete pillar outside Tony's Market. His small fingers clutch a piece of construction paper that has been folded and unfolded so many times that the creases are soft as fabric. The crayon drawing of a flaming red motorcycle still glows vividly, even though it has been carried in his pocket for 3 weeks like a talisman against loneliness. The 5-year-old's worn Velcro sneakers, 2 sizes too big, a Christmas donation from last year, scrape against the hot pavement as he watches the leather-clad giants dismount their steel horses with practiced ease. Their boots hit the ground like distant thunder, the patches on their vests tell stories in symbols he cannot read but somehow understands: brotherhood and loyalty. Among them towers Bull Morrison, 6'4", and broad as a refrigerator. His graying beard is braided with leather cords, his bear-like grip marked by decades of engine work and bar fights. But it's his eyes that capture Tommy's attention, pale blue and unexpectedly gentle, like storm clouds with sunlight breaking through. The boy's heart hammers against his ribs as he remembers Sister Margaret's words from their bedtime talks at St. Mary's Home for Children. Tommy, sometimes God puts angels in the most surprising packages. And the scariest looking people often have the biggest hearts, hidden underneath all that armor. The afternoon air carries the scent of motor oil and leather, mixed with the sweetness of the ice cream truck 3 blocks away, a combination that will forever remind Tommy of this moment when courage feels like swallowing fire and his legs shake so hard he has to grip the concrete pillar to keep from falling. Bull's weathered fingers pull off his riding gloves as he stretches cramped muscles. When he turns toward the store entrance, he notices the small figure pressed against the pillar, brown eyes white as saucers, fixed on him with an intensity that twists something in his chest. The child steps forward on unsteady legs, his voice barely audible above the settling engines. "Excuse me, mister." Bull stops mid-stride, his expression softening as he looks down at this tiny, brave soul who couldn't weigh more than 40 pounds soaking wet. Tommy's hand trembles as he extends the drawing like a peace offering to some ancient god. "I made this for someone who loves motorcycles as much as I do." The words tumble out in a rush before his courage can abandon him completely. Bull kneels slowly, bringing his towering presence down to the child's eye level. His calloused palm accepts the paper with the reverence of someone receiving a sacred text. As he studies the careful crayon work, every spoke individually drawn, flames that seem to dance off the page, a tiny rider wearing a helmet decorated with hand-drawn stars, he feels something crack open in his chest, a door he had welded shut 30 years ago when his own foster care experience taught him that caring too much only leads to heartbreak. Bull's voice emerges rough as gravel but warm as summer honey. "What's your name, little man?" Tommy's whispered reply, "Tommy Martinez, and I live at St. Mary's because my mom and dad went to heaven in a car accident 2 years ago," hits Bull like a physical blow. It instantly transports him back to his own childhood in the system, bouncing from home to home, ignored or treated like a burden until he aged out at 18 with nothing but anger and a duffel bag full of secondhand clothes. The drawing trembles slightly in Bull's weathered grip as memories flood back unbidden. The loneliness that ate at him like acid, the way he pressed his face against windows watching other kids get picked up by real families, the foster father who called him worthless, the social worker who looked at him like he was already a lost cause. All the wounds that led him to find family in this brotherhood of broken men who understood that sometimes you have to build your own tribe from life's castaways. Tommy's small fingers twist the hem of his faded Superman t-shirt, another donation bin treasure, as he watches Bull's face for signs of rejection. The way adults' expressions usually shift when they learn he's one of those kids, too old, too damaged, too much work for families looking for perfect babies to mold into their dreams. "I draw motorcycles every day," Tommy continues, his voice gaining strength as he talks about the one thing that makes him feel powerful in a world made for bigger people. Sister Margaret says I have a gift, and gifts are meant to be shared. So I've been waiting for the right person to give this one to, someone who would understand how free motorcycles make you feel. The words pour out like water through a broken dam as he describes his nightly ritual of sitting by the dormitory window, sketching imaginary rides to places where 5-year-olds don't have caseworkers and don't have to line up for everything from meals to hugs, places where he could just be a regular kid with a regular family who loved him not because they were paid to, but because they chose to. Bull feels his throat tighten as he listens, recognizing the desperate hunger for belonging that he still carries like shrapnel in his own heart. When he looks down at this brave little artist who reminds him so painfully of his younger self, he makes a decision that surprises even him. Tommy, this is the most beautiful motorcycle I've ever seen, he says, his voice thick with emotion he thought he had buried decades ago. And I'm going to keep it somewhere very special. Okay. The boy's face lights up like sunrise as Bull carefully folds the drawing and tucks it into the inner pocket of his leather vest, right next to his heart, where the paper will rest against the warmth of his chest as he rides. The moment stretches between them, this unlikely connection bridging two worlds that should never intersect, the outlaw biker with prison tattoos and the orphan child with crayon-stained fingers, but somehow they do, creating something neither expected and both desperately needed. As Bull's brothers finish shopping and begin starting their bikes, the air fills with the familiar symphony of engines coming to life. Steel tailpipes roar as 20 machines prepare to carry their riders back into the freedom of open roads. Tommy steps back against the pillar, his small hand raised in a wave that breaks Bull's heart with its innocent trust. As the convoy pulls away in a powerful procession of metal and muscle, neither of them knows that this simple exchange of art for kindness has set in motion a chain of events that will transform not just their two lives, but an entire community's understanding of what family really means. The drawing rests against Bull's heartbeat as he rides, its edges growing warm from body heat and motorcycle vibration. Behind them, Tommy watches until the last taillight disappears around the corner. His soul already lighter for having shared his gift with someone who truly understood its value. The clubhouse stands like a fortress of loyalty on the outskirts of town. Weathered brick walls decorated with decades of motorcycle culture, the scent of motor oil permanently embedded in every surface. It is here, 3 hours later, that Bull stands before his club family, Tommy's drawing carefully spread out on the scarred wooden table where they've made countless decisions about territory, loyalty, and survival. The paper looks impossibly small and innocent among the empty beer bottles and ashtrays, its bright crayon colors almost glowing under the harsh fluorescent lights as 20 hardened men lean in to examine what their sergeant at arms has brought them. Curiosity mixes with the weariness that comes from lives spent trusting no one outside their chosen family. This kid, Bull's voice cracks slightly as he begins, his imposing stature somehow seeming smaller as vulnerability creeps into his tone, reminded me of something I thought I'd forgotten, what it feels like to believe someone might actually give a damn about you. Tank Rodriguez, arms scarred from 3 tours in Afghanistan, eyes that have seen too much death to ever fully close in peaceful sleep, picks up the drawing with surprising gentleness, his calloused fingers tracing the carefully drawn flames as memories of his own difficult childhood surface. My little sister used to draw me pictures, he says quietly, almost inaudible over the distant hum of traffic, before the state split us up. And I never saw her again. She always put little hearts in the corners, just like this kid did with these stars. One by one, the drawing passes from hand to hand. Each man studies it like a treasured artifact. And gradually, stories begin to emerge, like confessions in a cathedral. Diesel speaks of aging out of foster care with nothing but anger and a stolen motorcycle. Wrench tells of sleeping in bus stations until this club became the first real family he ever knew. Slowly the room fills with the weight of shared trauma and the realization that they have all been Tommy in one form or another. Bull watches his club family's faces transform as they hold the drawing, seeing past the intimidating exteriors to the wounded boys they all carry inside. And when he speaks again, his words carry the weight of someone who has made a decision that will change everything. That kid is sitting in some institution right now, probably wondering if anybody in the world gives a damn about him, just like we all did once. And I'll be damned if I'm going to let another kid feel that way when we can do something about it. The room falls silent except for the rhythmic ticking of the old clock on the wall and the distant sound of wind moving through the trees outside. But Bull can feel the energy shifting, the same protective instinct that binds them together as family now extending outward to embrace a 5-year-old boy they've never met but already love. Wrench stands first, his voice rough with emotion. "So what are we going to do about it, brother?" Suddenly the air crackles with purpose as the crew begins planning something that will restore their faith in their own capacity for good. Dawn breaks over St. Mary's home for children like a gentle blessing, painting the institutional brick walls in shades of golden rose that make even the chain-link fences seem less like barriers and more like promises of protection. Tommy wakes to the familiar sounds of 14 other children stirring in their narrow beds. His first conscious thought turns immediately to the drawing he gave away yesterday and the kind stranger who accepted it like treasure. The rumble begins as a distant whisper at the edge of hearing, growing steadily stronger until it becomes unmistakable, the synchronized thunder of 20 motorcycles approaching in formation. Their exhaust pipes catch the early morning light and throw it back in brilliant flashes that dance across the dormitory windows like captured lightning. Tommy's bare feet slap against the cold linoleum as he rushes to the window, pulse racing in his throat as he recognizes Bull's towering figure leading the procession. But what takes his breath away completely is the sight of every rider carrying packages wrapped in bright paper, their colors adorned with ribbons that flutter in the wind like battle flags transformed into celebration banners. Sister Margaret's morning prayers are interrupted by gentle but insistent knocking at the front door. When she opens it, she finds herself facing not the trouble she might have expected, but Bull respectfully removing his bandana and nodding with old-fashioned courtesy. "Good morning, sister. My name is Bull Morrison and these are my brothers." His voice carries none of the menace strangers might expect, only warmth and purpose. "We met a young man named Tommy yesterday who gave us something very precious, and we'd like to return the favor, if that's acceptable to you." Behind him, 19 other bikers stand in respectful formation, packages held carefully against their chests, faces showing none of the hardness the world sees, but instead reflecting the tenderness that emerges when broken people choose to heal others instead of perpetuating pain. Sister Margaret's initial surprise melts into understanding as she recognizes something sacred in their intentions. Her voice carries both authority and blessing. "Tommy has been watching out the window all morning. I think he knew somehow that yesterday wasn't the end of your story together." The common room explodes into organized chaos as packages spill across tables and floor. Each gift chosen with the care of men who understand exactly what it means to have nothing and receive something unexpected. A riding jacket sized perfectly for small shoulders and softer than butter. Model motorcycles in every color imaginable that will populate 1,000 imaginary adventures. Art supplies that will last for months and turn blank paper into doorways to freedom, books about motorcycles and adventure and brave children who overcome impossible odds to find their happy endings. But it's Bull's final gift that brings tears to every adult eye in the room. A child-sized helmet painted midnight blue with silver stars scattered across its surface like a piece of captured sky, identical to the one Tommy drew on his paper rider, accompanied by words that will echo in the boy's heart forever. "Every rider needs proper gear, little man. Because I was thinking, maybe you'd like to go for a ride with your old buddy Bull." When Tommy nods so enthusiastically that his whole body vibrates with excitement, the circle becomes complete, the lonely child and the wounded man finding in each other the family they've both been seeking. As Tommy climbs onto Bull's bike, his small arms wrapping securely around the gentle giant's waist, his new helmet catching sunlight like a crown, the drawing that started it all flutters against the clubhouse wall, where it now holds a place of honor among photographs of family lost and found. A permanent reminder that sometimes the smallest gestures create the biggest families and that love isn't about blood or birth certificates, but about choosing to see someone's heart and protect it with your own. The convoy pulls away from St. Mary's with their newest honorary member aboard. Tommy's laughter rises above the engine. Noise like music. Behind them, Sister Margaret waves from the doorway, her prayers answered in ways she never could have imagined, watching as 20 outcasts and one orphaned boy disappear down the road toward an adventure that will teach them all that belonging isn't something you're born into. It's something you build, one gesture at a time. 122.2s